What's up, Nav Nation? PokéNav here, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be going through a large number of cards that I've got assembled to be submitted to PSA. We're going to go through those cards here today, each of them one at a time, and along the way I'm also going to be providing some tips on ways that you can make your submissions easier, faster, and ultimately get better grades on your submissions and potentially more PSA 10s. So before we get rolling on this submission video, guys, show your support for the channel. Double slap that like and subscribe button. And if you want to be notified anytime a new video drops, be sure to thunder punch that notification bell so that you don't miss a single video. All right, guys, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. We'll go ahead and start off with the first one here. And as you can see, we've got that Japanese Southern Islands. And here we have the Mew, which is arguably the most valuable card from this particular series. And what you'll notice here, first and foremost, that my first big tip for you guys is that you'll notice with all of these cards, I have these little, what they call post-it flags on the card itself. And the reason that I put these on here, you'll see many other people who submit their cards, put these post-it flags on there. And the reason that they do so is because it makes it easier on the grader to remove your cards from the card savers. So, you know, I've got about an 80 card submission here that I'm going to be sending in. You know, I always try to think of it in terms of the grader. And if they're going through such a large submission, any way that you can make it easier on them, you can, you know, potentially, you know, maybe get on their good side. I mean, think about it, guys. A lot of this can be subjective. And if they're going through a large submission, if you're able to make that a little bit easier on them, not only is that going to bode well in your favor for, you know, but potentially maybe swaying a decision one way or another, but it's also going to expedite the process of getting your cards graded. And with the huge amount of backlog that PSA has, any way that you can speed along the process, I think is a really good thing. So as you can see here, we're moving along in this Japanese Southern Islands collection. And essentially what I'm looking to do here is to get a master set. If you guys keep tabs on my videos, you see that I recently acquired a bunch of the Japanese Southern Islands box sets. And so that's what I'm looking to do here. I'm looking to get a full master set with all of these cards. And as I said, tip number one is going to be putting these post-it flags on your cards itself, because it does make it easier for the grader to pull those cards out. The next tip that I would recommend, and I don't have one here with me, is potentially using a magnifying glass or maybe a magnifying lamp before you send your cards in. And the reason being is you want to be able to inspect these cards as closely as you can in comparison to what PSA is going to be looking at. So they're going to have high-powered equipment, technology that they're going to use to, you know, really get into the fine detail of these cards. And if you're able to replicate that before you send it in, you'll have a much more accurate measurement or prediction as to what those cards might actually come back in. So that's the next thing that I would do is, you know, maybe use a magnifying glass or a magnifying lamp to, you know, get the condition of your cards or get an accurate, you know, depiction of what your cards may come back in. And you guys might be asking yourself, okay, you know, why have you decided to go with PSA? Recently, I've been talking about CGC, Beckett, and really to answer that question, it's it really has to do with the fact that I'm looking more for long-term value with this particular submission. And now we are moving into the base set, and I've got a couple of the shadowless starters here. So there's Bulbasaur, there is Charmander, and there is Squirtle. I'll start getting through these a little bit faster because I'm probably going pretty slow. But yeah, so I'm looking for long-term value with PSA. You're going to get that more so than with CGC. You know, if I was looking to try to flip cards quickly, then I would be going with CGC, but I'm not really looking for that. I'm looking more for the premium that would be garnered from PSA. You may be asking yourselves, well, why don't you go with Beckett? Well, to be quite honest with this particular submission, there's not really cards in here that I think would warrant, you know, getting that Beckett label put on them. You know, most of these cards are probably going to fall in, you know, probably near mint status. Like for instance, this Blastoise here, this is probably maybe around the, like a PSA 7 condition type of Blastoise here, unlimited. So I'm not really looking to, you know, get to pay the higher price tag to have these cards graded with Beckett. So that's what really made my decision to go with PSA over the other two. Now we're moving into Jungle here. There is that Jungle Snorlax, and one of the most beautiful cards, in my opinion, from Jungle. We've got the Vaporeon. Okay, so moving on to the next tip for submitting your cards. And this is whether you're going with PSA, Beckett, CGC, these are all good tips. The other thing you want to use is brand new penny sleeves and card savers. And the reason being, again, think about it from the perspective of the person grading your cards. If you're sending them in and they're coming out of a pristine penny sleeve, a pristine card saver, that makes the cards already more appealing to the eye versus coming out of a dirty or smudged card saver or penny sleeve. So make sure that you're using brand new penny sleeves, brand new card savers. I found that it's just a good strategy to use. And again, we're kind of playing the psychological game here and trying to kind of sway things in our favor as much as we possibly can. All right. So now we are moving on to Fossil here, starting off with this Kabutops. And again, guys, trying to move along relatively quickly, but also give you an opportunity to get a good look at these cards, because there's some beautiful ones in here. Many of these have come from either my personal collection or cards that I've garnered just over the years. Here's our first edition card. This is a first edition Fossil non-hollow Moltres. Again, you know, you can kind of already see it through there. It's not in the best of condition, but that's okay. You know, a card like a first edition Moltres doesn't always need to come back in a, you know, PSA 9, PSA 10 to have value. Now we're moving into the Team Rocket, and again, there's another first edition Dark Magneton non-hollow, so that's pretty cool. The other thing that I would recommend, another tip for submitting your cards, is you want to have an organized submission. So as you guys can see here, all of the cards that I've been showing you have been in chronological order, or at the very least they have all been in, they all match with the same set. So when all of your cards are in the same set or they're in order, again, it makes it easier on the graders and helps them to create labels faster. And again, guys, we're looking to get things in our favor, and you know, along with that, we're also wanting to speed up the process. We want to try to increase or I should say decrease the amount of time that it takes for a grader to grade your cards. Which, if you guys don't know, as we pull this Dark Charizard here, this is the non-hollow, and I actually have a hollow to follow that up with. If you guys don't know, the way that it works at PSA is somebody gets your cards, they grade them, then they get passed off to another grader. If the conditions match, then they go to a third grader to have them verified and signed off on. If they don't match, they'll go to a third grader and then possibly even a fourth grader. So again, you want to make sure that you're doing all in your power to increase you know, the expediency of your submission and make it easier on the grader. That's really what we're trying to do here with these particular tips and everything that we're doing for our submission. Now that I've got these two Charizards here, another thing that I would recommend doing, this is just another little strategy, is you want to put your weakest card first. And what I mean by that is if you have two of the same cards, now these ones aren't exactly the same, and maybe it's not the best example. I've actually got a better one here in a minute. And in fact, let's just go ahead and move on to those, because I've actually got coming up here a better example of that. And there we've got Pidgeot. So here we go. So now you can see I've got two base set 2 holo Mewtwo's. When I say putting your weakest card first, as they're going through your submission, if you've got, which I think that this particular Mewtwo is in lesser condition, or I believe it would receive a lower grade than this one. If you put this one first and then the exact same one behind it, they're going to look at this one and they're gonna, they're gonna get basically a barometer as to, okay, we think that this is, I don't know, PSA 7. Then they pull this one and they're like, okay, yeah, that's in much better condition, and perhaps they're using this as their base or their barometer. This one, very often, what I found, will come back an even better grade than if it was put before the lesser condition card. So you're essentially just trying to, again, use a little bit of psychology here and try to kind of win things over in your favor. So moving on here, going through a few more base set 2 cards. Here is our boy Alakazam. There we've got a base set 2 Venusaur. And Jolteon. Now we're moving into the Legendary Collection. And the other tip that I have for you guys here, there's a Dark Dragonite Reverse Holofoil. That's really cool. These cards have really been going up in value. And now we're moving into the Neo era, which these are awesome. The other thing that I would recommend is, if you can, I know it's difficult right now with the turnaround times and trying to get your card submitted and back, but another good thing would be to be the first to submit a particular card. So the first cards to show up on pop reports typically will come back at a higher grade because they're setting the precedence. So if it's the first one that PSA is receiving, chances are you're probably going to get a higher grade than if you were the 500th submission for that. And again, I know that it's difficult to do that, which talking about difficult, there we go. Lugia Neo Genesis Holo Lugia. This is unlimited. I recently was talking about investing in the first edition Neo era holos, but all I've got here today for this submission is just the unlimited holos. Here we've got the unknown. But again, going back to that tip, another thing would be to search the pop reports often. If you've got particular cards in your possession that are maybe a non-existent population or a very low population, you might want to consider getting those cards graded so that you can be the first one to show up. Because as I said, I've noticed that time and time again, the first one to enter the pop report, or the first few, 5, 10, 15, 20, however many, those ones typically are going to receive higher grades than mini cards to follow that enter that pop report. So moving on now we are into Neo Revelation. We got our legendary birds, the Ho-Oh and Lugia. These are non-holos. Here we've got the Houndoom, the Misdreavus. Here, this is one of my favorite cards, the Shining Gyarados. I've actually showed this one in a previous video before. It's been sitting in my collection for quite some time, and I've just never gotten it graded, and now is the time. I love this card. Such a beautiful artwork, and can't wait to see what that comes back in. There's Light Azumarill, Dark Typhlosion. Gotta love this card. And now we're getting to the last few here. These are all of the amazing rares from Vivid Voltage, and I'm sending these in. Here's another example of trying to put the weaker card first. I believe that this Rayquaza amazing rare is actually a lesser condition than this one, so I'm going to go ahead and put this one first. This will be the first card that the grader should see, which should hopefully play in my favor in getting this particular card at a higher grade. So we'll put those ones there. Coming down to the end, we've got the Zamazenta, we've got the Raikou, and we've got the Jirachi. So that is pretty much it for this particular submission, guys. Again, some of those helpful tips, if it's your first time submitting with any grading company, again, just to run through those tips. Inspect your cards with a magnifying glass. Make sure that you're trying to get as accurate a condition before you submit them as you possibly can. Use brand new penny sleeves and card savers. This is just going to play into your favor, as well as, you know, getting a little bit better appeal to the grader. Use the post-it flags on your cards as well. Again, this is just going to make it much easier on the grader to get through your submission. And again, you want to be on their good side, but it's also going to expedite the process. Put your weakest card first. I found that that is a pretty good strategy for, you know, attempting. It's not surefire, but it's an attempt to try to get a little bit better grade on a subsequent card. And have an organized submission. That's always important. Again, it's going to help out the grader. It's going to expedite the process. And the quicker you can get your cards back, either the quicker you can get them into your collection or out on the open market. And if you can, again, I know it's difficult right now, if you can, be the first to submit a card so that it's the first one to show up in PSA Pop Reports. So guys, I think that's going to do it for today. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video, and I will do a follow-up whenever I get these cards back. Who knows when that will actually be, but I will do a follow-up video, and we'll go through some of the grades that these cards actually received. Other than that, guys, I will see you all next time. My name is PokéNav. I'm here to help you navigate the world of Pokemon, one video at a time, and I will see you all in the next video.